Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday, June 1st, 2009 informational meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council. Now I'll call this meeting to order. And first up is the City Council staff report. We will have updates by Deborah A. Owen, City Clerk.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. Not much to remind you of today. I think actually the notes with your agenda are very thorough, but just to let you know, there is a fiscal committee meeting today, and for those of you who may not remember, on the back of your informational agenda, you'll see those items. And just wanted to say thank you. As many of you know, Tamara and I attended the IIMC conference, which is the International Institute for Municipal Clerks. There are 12 countries represented there for people who all do the same work, similar work that we do here in the City of Sioux Falls. It was a phenomenal conference. The speakers, they outdid themselves. We had great educational workshops. And also got to see the latest version of the Granicus in terms of the voting system. And that's something that you may want to consider a year or two down the road. It's an excellent system and also would really help inform the public in terms of you'd have screens on each side, you could see the vote, and you too would be able to follow it a little easier. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I was just curious, Deb, where was the meeting held at?
The Palmer. The Palmer downtown, the hotel, the Palmer.
Oh, in Chicago. Okay.
Chicago, I'm sorry,
Okay, yes.
Chicago, yes.
Okay.
She thought you knew all the big cities. Say, Deborah, I have a question. You mentioned the voting. Would that record the votes that we're doing here and put them up on the screen and
Yes.
leave them there for a while?
Yes, it would, and that would, that was always was that potential with the software. The software though has improved over the last few years, and so I watched the demonstration and sat down with our representative in Chicago and looked at that. It would record it. You could see it on a screen here. You could push button to vote, but also then we would have screens that would be in the Carnegie, and then people could read that and see what agenda item if you're on. For some of those who are attending for the very first time, the consent agenda, for instance, goes very fast, and they don't realize they're actually done with the consent and on to the regular, and those kinds of things that are much easier to follow with this program. And then, of course, on TV, they could see the vote, too. It would post up to a screen to show the vote, whether it passed or failed, or an amendment, whether it passed or failed. And so it's pretty neat. It's actually the recorded vote happens in real time, and so the minutes become a little easier, too, as it goes directly into the software.
Okay. Any other questions of Deborah? Very good. Moving on, the Audit Committee. Do you have a report?
No report.
No report from Audit. How about Fiscal Committee?
As Deborah suggested, we have a couple of items on the agenda, and they'll be discussed at the Finance Committee meeting right after our informational. It's a discretionary formula for real estate taxes that was discussed in the strategic economic conversation we've had a couple of months ago. And then the second item is the internal audit committee reporting structure that we'll talk about.
Very good. Thank you. Questions of Gerald? Seeing none, Land Use Committee.
No report.
Very good. How about Public Services Committee?
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Now, item number 8 is the City Council open discussion. Do we have any items? Councilor Knudsen.
I just wanted to remind everyone that once again there's going to be the mayor is hosting a picnic and a parade on the 4th of July this year, like we've done since the sesquicentennial, actually. And anyway, that will, take place. The picnic will take place at Falls Park, and so we all just received a press release about that today, and so I just wanted to mention it. And I know that the city is looking for more people to enter the parade, and they can go on the website and take care of that. And anyway, it's really helpful that the 4th of July is on a Saturday this year. That's helpful too. So just promoting that. And then I should also remind everyone, as before, the first 5,000 people to show up on the 4th of July will get a free lunch. And people like me will do almost anything to get out of cooking, so I will be there. And then on another topic, just as I came to work today in the parking lot, I just happened to find a ring. And so if anyone has accidentally dropped a ring, it's a woman's ring, and then last, near future, please let the city clerk's office know.
Very good. Questions of D? Anybody else have something for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'd just like to say that 4 of us councilors were at the pavilion prior to this for the 10th anniversary, and it was a nice presentation. We had a little cake, and we sat down on the stage, and I just got to say that I can't imagine if you were a performer looking up there, you'd have to stand up on the back of your neck before you'd start, because it's quite a sight from down there on the stage. I'd never been down on the stage before, and it's really something. So, anything else for open discussion? Very good. Then we're going to move into item number 9, our presentations. And the first one we're going to have is our monthly financial update by Eugene Rowenhorst, our Director of Finance. Eugene, please come forward.
Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance. Going to go over actually the April statements. The numbers are actually getting kind of stale right now, but just due to calendar issues and that, we couldn't get it done before this. So, like I say, the numbers are a little bit stale, but nonetheless, will give you a sense of where we're at. Starting on page 1, just to take note of the unreserved fund balance, the ending balance, and the ratio is 35%. That's where we have a standard of 25%. So we're going to still continue to be in good shape there. This is, although, a number that we really measure at year end. We show it to you during the year, but the year end is when it actually takes effect. And then on the cash balance, we're at a 22% cash balance against our standard of 11%. And that'll continue to drop a little bit as the as we run off our property taxes. As you know, we get our property taxes twice a year, and so we'll be going down into the dip now. On page 2 is the second penny, as we refer to it. Everything seems to be moving properly there. We've established our holdbacks and that kind of thing for the any possibilities of errors or changes in the marketplace. I guess one thing I want to point out to you, you'll see that the right below the budget status, the third column over is arterial streets, 0.08 penny. I think one thing to point out there, we've so far collected that 0.08 this year, $675,000 from the 0.08 out of the second penny. We've collected so far this year $3,957 from developing fees, platting fees. So a little bit of a spread there yet. Looking at sales tax, and we might as well talk about May at the same time. April came out, and all of you have seen this number, came out to be 1.3%. We got the May numbers about the middle of last week and did some analysis on those. And I've got to get my right pile of paper. The May results came in at, we're now at a year-to-date growth rate of 1.7%. So we're up from the 1.3 that was there at the end of April. And so at the end of May, we're up at 1.7, but it's moving pretty slow going up. So I don't know if there's any statements we can really make about it. It still seems to be in that range that we've been incurring for several months now. I know there's some questions on the sales tax. What's going on with it? We really don't know a lot about it because the information is not compiled in a manner that is really, really useful to us. It appears that durable goods are clearly one of the culprits that bites us. The number of particularly single-family housing starts is down, and one of the big components in building a new house, as Mr. Litz will tell you, is you got to put in refrigerators and air conditioners and furnaces and ranges and all kinds of stuff like that. And if the houses aren't being built, those durable goods aren't being purchased either. So that takes a significant impact on it. Are there any questions on the sales tax then?
Question, Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, just to clarify, Gene, you said 1.7% for May. Does that mean that we're up 1.7% from January to May, or just?
It means you're up 1.7% to May of 2008, or
Oh, okay,
2008.
2008. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Gene, I don't know if you can shed any light on it, but what's the story behind the entertainment tax and lodging tax, which have traditionally through this recession performed very strong and less so now?
And it's slowing down a little bit, but people are still like to go out to the restaurants, apparently. We really don't have any explanation for it as far as what's going on, other than it's there. I don't know, maybe Councilman Costello would have an insight into it, why people are going out to restaurants yet, but I'm sure that.
Well, my speculation would just be that people may not be taking, buying some of the durable good things, but they still, want to have some kind of a enjoyment factor, and maybe are going out to restaurants as part of that instead of buying the refrigerator. They've got some extra money to spend in restaurants. But I don't know.
But specifically, I was wondering why they're down considerably in May as compared to April. Any story there you can tell us?
Again, we have no ability to collect data as to why that's occurring.
Verna, can you repeat that again, please?
May's entertainment tax, unless I read it wrong, was still up 4.1%, but in April it was 5.9. Lodging tax in April was up 17.4, but in May 4.9.
Wasn't
Well, if you look at
when was the tournament here, the basketball? Met in March. Mm-hmm. That might explain some of it, that they had a spike in March.
And if you look at the numbers specifically, in April the entertainment tax was $316,000 versus May was $442. So, it's up quite a bit. But with the point I was going to ask was from Councilor Stagger's question, Gene, these percentages being up 1.7 and 4.1 and that's cumulative for the year, right?
That is year to year. So you see the
right.
comparison.
So it's not just the month of May. It's January through May.
Yes. Yep.
Vernon, on yours, that we had the 17% that 1 month. I think typically these have been running between 7 and 8. Those numbers, pretty steady as I recall it. So the 17, I think that was an anomaly, and that caught my eye. The last time we had that up there. So Gene explained that, I guess. Gene, do you still have more?
Sure do. Going through the other funds, the enterprise, not the enterprise funds, but the other funds that we have, the entertainment tax you talked about, railroad, community fund, transit system. Really nothing of consequence to report on any of those. Our capital improvement program continues to operate as it should. Looking on page, well, first let's back up to page 7, and there is all of the enterprise funds, and they continue to perform as we've anticipated. We do have some negative numbers in cash flow from landfill and water reclamation, but those numbers will be worked up with as the sales start to really kick in, particularly like water. Water is a fixed, all of these utilities are fixed cost businesses. So when your volume drops, it drops right to the bottom line. When your volume goes up, it goes right to the bottom line also. So that should be picking up, and we'll get those straightened around. The other thing that goes on, particularly with water and water reclamation, is SRF loans. They are after the fact pay downs, so we have to do the construction, incur the expense, write the checks out, and when that's done, then we can go to the state and collect our proceeds from the SRF funds, and that's the other big thing that causes these negative numbers to show up from time to time. I guess the only other thing I would point out that is of any consequence, again, is our debt position. We show on, that's on page 16, we show that we have outstanding and authorized debt right now of $320 million. That includes the flood control bonds, the levies, but it does not include the quality of life bonds yet. The quality of life bonds will show up in the May transactions. And then a couple of things I wanted to point out to you also, the parking revenue bonds for the, I guess they call it the 8th Street parking ramp down here. We have called those bonds. They went by the call protection date, and we were paying out about 4.5%, and we were getting a whopping %1.5 or 0.75% in cash. So it doesn't make sense to be. You're not arbitraging the right way. We're paying out more than we could get. So we're calling those, and they'll actually be paid off about June 15th. So they have been called, and it's just going through the process right now. And the other thing that I thought you'd find of interest, we've been working with our financial consultants on the issuance of the quality of life bonds. And right now, assuming nothing changes, so keep that in mind, it still could change, but it's looking very promising that we will be able to do a competitive bid transaction. So that will be good if we can do that as opposed to a negotiated transaction. They did some research. They called a number of possible underwriters last Thursday and Friday on a nationwide basis, and the indication was that they really didn't feel that the initiative out there was an issue any longer since it's gone by the 6-month mark.
Questions of Mr. Roner? Mr. Costello?
Gene, can you back up to the parking bonds? Where are they in here?
Oh, I should have figured that out.
Oh, maybe it's parking series,
There you-
2,000?
Yep.
Was that it? Okay.
Yep. Should be
$2.6 million
I was going to say $2.5 million.
Yeah, okay.
Pat, what page are you on?
It's on page 16. It's about halfway down, right under business type, revenue bonds and notes, public parking series 2000.
Yep, 2.6 million. Right under the business type line. So we'll have those off the books.
Councilor Knutson?
Yeah. Gene, will you just help me again on that? So like when we call the bonds, will you just explain that a little bit more to me? Like when do we, will you just teach me a little bit more about that?
The quality of life bond?
The parking.
Well, the parking?
Yeah, will you just explain that a little bit more to me?
Well, their bonds were issued to pay for the construction of the parking ramp. And what you have in a typical bond transaction, you have a period of time that you cannot call the bonds. In other words, you can't pay them off. And these bonds went by that call protect, what's referred to as call protection. They went by that date. That was about, I want to say 6 months ago or so, and we were kind of trying to decide what we wanted to do with it. With the way interest rates are going, like I say, we were paying 4.5% give or take on that, and we were getting less than 1% in our cash fund, so it doesn't make sense to continue paying that out. But the call protection, that gives investors some sense that they know that they will have their investment for a guaranteed period of time. If you don't put call protection in, then you have particularly a difficulty with long-term investors. They will not be inclined to look at it because when they put their money in, they want to know that it will stay there and that they will not have to reinvest the money. There's a little thing called investment risk is what you call it. And what investment risk is that you will get your money will mature and you'll get your money, but okay, now I got to reinvest it. So if you got it in at a nice yield and there's no call protection, I'm going to be inclined to call that and go for the lower yield, and the investor isn't going to like that, obviously. So it's a game that's played. So it's worthwhile to put call protection on it. If you see the shorter term 10-year ones that we've done, we've usually got a 5-year call protection on them. The longer term ones, we have tend to have a 10-year call protection period on them.
Thank you.
But once it goes by the call protection period, then we can do what we want. We can leave them out there, or we can call
Thanks.
them on.
Councilor Costello?
Gene, typically, do we typically call our bonds? That's fairly unusual.
No, it's not unusual. It's more a factor of the interest rates. Why would we want to keep them out there at an interest rate higher than what we can earn money on?
And then that payment of that $2.6 million, will that come out of the community development funds? Is that?
Yes. Well, the parking is a separate fund.
Is that in showing?
That's back in your other areas where the actual parking fund is, and it'll come out of that. Parking is sitting on more than $2.5 million in cash, and we decided probably should.
I agree 100% with the decision. I just can't find the parking fund in here.
Let's see if we.
That's why I thought maybe it was in community development.
Gene, Randy is here if he's of any help to you.
Where's it? Which fund's it in, Randy? Is it in? Yeah, where's that? Why isn't it showing up here? I'm not seeing it. This is just community development. That's all of our enterprise funds. Where is the enterprise funds at? There you go, public parking, it's under the enterprise funds.
Which page is it?
Page 7.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
Anything else of Gene?
Well, I
Very
guess
good.
I
Mr.
just-
Staggers.
One quick question, Gene. How are we doing this year as far as hiring city employees?
We'd have to get Bill over here, he
Oh,
keeps
okay.
track of all that
Okay.
stuff. I don't keep track of the FTE and that
Okay.
in my department.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else of Gene? Very good. Mr. Roanhorse, thank you for your presentation today. The next item on our presentation is the local food bank update, and we're going to have Matt Gasson from the Community Food Banks of South Dakota. Matt, you're the director of that, I believe. Very good. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'd like to thank Councilman Anderson for inviting me to come and do a presentation today regarding our organization here in the community. I'm going to start out by trying to give you all a little brief history about our organization. It's probably not needed, but we'll do it just to cover the basis. Our organization was started in 1975 here in Sioux Falls by the Ministerial Association when they got together and decided they wanted to create a pantry in this community to help fight the issue of hunger in Sioux Falls. After several different locations, we wound up at our current location at 417 North Phillips. In 1987, we purchased that building, and for quite a while, we operated solely as a pantry. And then in the late 80s, we also decided that there was a need greater than just the Sioux Falls area to fight hunger, so we developed a food bank operation along with our pantry operation in that building. We managed there until about 1996 when we outgrew that facility, and we built our warehouse operation, which is in a building in the industrial park just east of the airport. And we have been at that location, our warehouse has, ever since, and our pantry has remained at 417 North Phillips. Another thing that happened to us in 2004, at the time the Food Service Center here in Sioux Falls merged with the Black Hills Regional Food Bank out in Rapid City to become the Community Food Banks of South Dakota. Up until that time, we were two separate nonprofit organizations, basically doing the same work. The only difference was who was covering which counties. So what the merger did, it gave us an opportunity to combine our resources and our talents to better fight hunger across the state of South Dakota in so doing. So we have a warehouse and a pantry operation in Rapid City as well. The mission of the Community Food Banks of South Dakota is merely just to eliminate hunger in South Dakota. And it's our hope to be able to do that by developing several methods in which to do that. We want to do that by creating hunger solutions in our communities across the state, to work harder at acquiring more and more food, both donated and purchased product, to be able to provide to organizations across the state to help communities and individuals in the fight against hunger. We want to be able to continue to distribute food both directly to clients, individuals, and organizations. And we want to become a source of information and assistance to individuals and organizations across the state on the issues of hunger. And then lastly, it's our goal to be an advocate for both at the local, state, and the federal level on the issues of hunger in South Dakota. We're affiliated nationally with an organization called Feeding America. We're one of 205 food banks nationwide that are a part of this organization. This organization not just merely, but they work very hard to create partnerships with all the major food manufacturers in America, with General Mills and Kraft and Conagra, Nestle's, and the list goes on and on of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of major manufacturers who donate surplus product, damaged product, and the like into this network of 205 food banks across the United States. We're fortunate also being a part of this network that we have the ability to garner additional product from other food banks who are in large metropolitan areas who oftentimes may have excesses of product that they have trouble moving that they will share with us as well. Our food bank operation is really one of two parts of our operation. At the food bank, and it's probably the part of our organization that's least understood, in that from the food bank what we're doing is merely providing food and distributing food to nonprofit charitable organizations all across the state. And this is the part of our organization that really takes us statewide. We currently have about 450 active agencies or organizations across the state that we provide food to at some point in time during the year from either our Sioux Falls or our Rapid City locations. In 2003, we distributed about 8.3 million pounds of food in that effort to get food to those communities. Additionally to that, about 1.5 million pounds of that food was distributed to about 117 organizations just in Minnehaha County. And if you look at that, with the retail value of a pound of food being approximately $1.49 a pound, that was a $2.2 million impact that we were able to provide to the individuals and organizations within our county here to fight hunger. With every dollar donated, we're proud to say that our organization can procure and distribute about 10 pounds of food. So if you look at the retail value for every dollar donated, we're able to procure and move about $15 retail worth of food product. Our pantry operation, like I said, it's been the cornerstone of our organization since 1975. And I provided you some informational statistics there on the pantry operation. In 2008, there was 9,306 individuals who came into our pantry. And our pantry is a little unique in that what we are is a referral-only pantry, in that we provide referral cards to literally hundreds and hundreds of churches and social service organizations in this community, so that as they're dealing with individuals who are struggling in life, and if one of those issues is that they're having trouble putting food on their tables, that organization merely has to give that individual a referral card and send them to the pantry. Much like I believe that our ministerial association envisioned back in 1975, to try to be that community one-stop shop for food assistance. Those individuals then come to the food pantry, and the beauty of that is that once they're at the pantry, there is no qualifications to receive food. That pantry card that they receive is what they need to be able to come to the pantry and get food. We rely on those organizations and the churches and such in this community to make that call on who needs food, not us. We do what we believe we do best, and that is procure and distribute food. So that makes us a little unique in that regard. And of that 9,300 individuals that walked into the pantry last year with a referral card, that food went on to feed over 20,500 family members in this community, and provided them what we believe is at least a minimum of 5-day supply of food. It took about 550,000 pounds of food to provide that food to those individuals. The start reality of 2008 was that we saw a 46% increase in demand over the same period in 2007. The second part of that sheet on the pantry statistics will show you a three-year breakout of the first quarter of 07, 08, and 09, and you'll see that in 2009, much like in 2007, we're still seeing an increase in demand on our services. Another program that we operate that's fairly well known, I think, in our community is the backpack program. And it's a program that we created to help fill the hunger gap that exists on weekends for many of our school-age children in this community who depend very heavily upon the National School Lunch Program, the free and reduced lunch program in our school systems. These kids oftentimes will be the only hot meal that they're going to get in any given day. And the schools do a great job of keeping these kids with food. But the problem always came with Friday afternoons when school was out and these kids had to go home, what happened on the weekend. So what this program does is it enables us to provide these children with a backpack of food to take home with them. It's easy to open, child-friendly products to provide, probably 4 or 5 meals over the weekend. It's not the end-all, be-all. It's great for a first grader, but it's probably not going to fill up a junior high kid. But nonetheless, we do the best we can with that in hopes that we're able to give these children at least something to have on the weekends to eat. Because statistics show that children who go without nutrition for any given period of time, once they start taking on food again, it could take them as much as 2.5 days before they're back to their optimum learning ability again. So if you look at a child coming in on Monday morning who's struggled and not had enough to eat on the weekend, it may be as late as Wednesday before that child's able to really start learning and concentrating again on the things in school. We started this program in April of 2007 as a pilot program here in Sioux Falls after having started it in Rapid City. But we started with 100 backpacks at Hawthorne Elementary School and 100 backpacks at Axtell Park. And we did that the last 7 weeks of that school year, the 2006-2007 school year. Then in the fall of 2007, we started the program in earnest, distributing 550 backpacks. We just completed this last school year distributing 2,452 backpacks every week to children here in Sioux Falls. The beauty of that is that we are providing at least some backpacks in every school in the Sioux Falls School District and 2 parochial schools. That was the last expansion effort we made, is we pushed to get at least some backpacks in every school, high school, middle school, elementary school, and we're even doing some early childhood development programs as well. Because, it matters not whether they're 18 or 3, all these children can be impacted by the fact that they don't have enough to eat when it comes to their education. Our organization as a whole couldn't possibly accomplish all that we accomplished if it wasn't for generous donors and supporters and volunteers. Volunteers are really the backbone of the work that we get done in this community and across the state. Sioux Falls alone, we had over 13,000 hours in volunteer service provided to us just last year between the work we do at the food bank and the pantry and in the backpack program. So, this community continues to support us greatly in our efforts to fight hunger in this community. In closing, I want to thank you for your time. I would invite each and every one of you, if you haven't had an opportunity, to please come and see our facilities. Allow us the opportunity to give you a tour and explain to you what we do. I don't think a lot of people probably realize, until we start talking, that as an organization that we distribute 8.5 or 9 million pounds of food every year. Many of us can't conceive what 9 million pounds of food looks like. Believe me, I can't either. But I can show you what a warehouse looks like that's got 500,000 pounds in it. That helps us do that. So I would invite all of you at some point in time, when you have time, and I know you're all very, very busy, to take time and allow us the opportunity to give you a tour. I want to thank you again for this time, and I'd be willing to answer any questions.
Thank you for coming down, Mr. Gaston. Mr. Jameson.
Matt, thank you for all you do. I mean,
Great.
Our jobs here are pretty easy. I did take a tour of the warehouse facility, and I was amazed by all the food that's there. But what I was more amazed about was that as your demand increases, your donations increase. You guys have really just stepped up and kept up with the pace. Who are some of the major contributors that you have in the city of Sioux Falls that provide food to you, like grocery stores? Or?
Historically, we have always, in our pantry, we have a route driver that goes to all of the grocery stores, local retail grocery stores, and does pickups, Hy-Vee, Sunshine, and has for many, many years. Starting in December, Walmart Corporation, as a corporation nationwide, rolled out a zero waste program that they want to try to achieve by, I think, 2012. So they started for the first time donating surplus product or product that was coming up on a shelf. For many years they were wasting out. They are now donating that to our organization, which has really given us a huge shot in the arm. We're looking at, just from that corporation, but many, an additional 1 million pounds of food that we're going to have to be able to distribute locally here in the community, which is going to be of a big help. But we've had John Morrell has always been a good supporter and donated to us. the multitude of food drives that we participate in every year, from the letter carriers to the Boy Scouts to the Student Hunger Drive. It's those organizations and those food drives that have enabled us to try to keep up with the demand. And then on a national level, I really give credit to Feeding America for the work that they're doing nationally to try to solicit more donations from them large corporations. And at the time it used to be product overruns or product that was maybe mislabeled in the manufacturing process was the products that we were receiving. But even in some cases now we're starting to see first-run products that are being donated by these corporations in an effort to help, even in times of disaster and during the normal times of the year when, there's a crunch for the need for hunger.
Councilor Knudsen.
Mr. Gosselin, thanks also for being here today. Is it, for those people who might be watching our show this on Channel 16 live, or see it later, or see it on the computer through Granicus, would you please share the best phone number that you use for people who might want to volunteer, and also if you have a website?
Right. We have a website at sdfoodbanks.org is our website. And the best number to call would be 605-335-0364, and that is the number to the food bank, and then we can, direct people wherever they may want to go, whether they want to volunteer at the food bank or the backpack program, and we can refer them to the pantry as well.
Thank you. And then just a second question is regarding the backpack program. So what, is there any system in place right now to reach some or all of those children during the summer, now that they're not in school all day long?
I could say I've never given this presentation without being asked that question, Councilman Knudsen. I appreciate that. Right now, we're trying to get 100% of the need met in the schools during the school year for right now. It's kind of we need to be able to walk before we can run kind of program a little bit, because logistically in the summer times, things are a little different. During the school year, we have these 2,450 or whatever that ultimate number is going to end up being, say 3,000 kids that we're going to be providing backpacks to meet 100% of the need. During the school year, we have them in those schools on Friday afternoon when the bell rings. In the summertime, we would be challenged with getting all those kids back to a certain location again at a prescribed day and time to get them their backpacks, which would be a huge challenge. But I think down the road we're going to be looking at coordinating with some of the summer feeding programs to at least try to get backpacks into the hands of those children that participate fairly regularly in those summer feeding programs. But challenge one is to try and get 100% of the need met during the school year. And this is a program that's solely supported by donations. All the product that we use in this program is purchased product. It's product that we get locally, retail or wholesale, primarily wholesale, but and then periodically we'll find product available through food brokers nationwide where we can get a little bit of a break on the product. And for $135 a year next year, you're going a donation would be able to provide a child with a weekend backpack for an entire 36-week school year. So,
Mr. Anderson. I'm sorry, were you?
Dee stole my question a little bit there, but that's just fine. So then your relationship with the summer lunch program is not one that you have completed yet, I'm taking
No,
it?
we haven't. No, we haven't yet.
Well, I'd be looking forward then, since we are going to have a couple of the directors from the summer lunch program here in the next few weeks, I'd love to get them to sit down with you and discuss what their program is doing at about the 8 sites that they have in Sioux Falls.
Right, and I believe, Councilman Anderson, that their program is much like the school lunch program. It's a Monday through Friday program, so we still, we're taking care of that need somewhat in the summer, but we still have that gap on the weekends that we still have in the schools, and that's going to be our challenge, I think, in the future to work with those organizations to try to fill that gap.
Thank you.
Mr. Staggers.
Yes, thanks for being here this afternoon. In recent weeks, we've been talking a lot with the county about their pilot program for homelessness here in Sioux Falls. Does the food pantry provide food for those homeless in the county pilot program?
Yes, we do. We always have provided food to the homeless. In fact, we actually have created homeless packs, knowing that some of these individuals that need food assistance maybe don't have cooking facilities to do that. So we had been able to procure some bags in which we could pack easy to open, non-cook required types of product to have available for those homeless individuals when they come in. And we will continue to do that. And as we get these homeless folks transitioning into housing, we want to be able to support them as well with food that they can actually cook.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions of Mr. Gasson? Well, seeing none, Matt, I want to thank you for coming down here and thank you for the job that you do. I know it's challenging and takes a lot of effort to do what you do, and we appreciate that. So,
Well, thank you.
very good. Is there anything else for the greater good here for this organization today here? Well, I'm going to be looking for a motion to adjourn into executive session, and the reason for the executive session is possible litigation involving the City of Sioux Falls.
I so move to
So
go into
moved.
executive session for those purposes.
Very
Knutson.
good. I get a motion by Knutson, second by Brown.
No, actually, I have concerns about going into executive session on this issue, especially if it's possible litigation. My understanding is that it can only be litigation that we're already in, and I am not comfortable going into executive session.
I'm going to take just a moment of privilege here and confer with our city attorney. I have been advised by the city attorney that we are heading into litigation. There's always the outside chance that it may be resolved before we get there, but that's the criteria that I was given. And so I've got a motion here.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Costello. Okay, anything else concerning that? Okay, we're going to take a vote here then as to whether to go into this or not, being we have some concerns. So it's just a straw vote. All those wanting to go into executive session, please raise your hand. Well, I guess we have it, Mr. Brown. So
I think I will abstain from the executive session then.
Very good. And it will be noted Mr. Brown will excuse himself from the executive session. All those who are in this room who are not directly involved with this executive session, we request that you please leave now. Thank you. We will resume this meeting in about 2 minutes.